Welcome back to Real Estate Uncensored. Thank you so much for joining us. We are doing another episode with Michael LaFido, the Luxury Listing Specialist. He is the host of the Luxury Listing Specialist podcast. He is the creator of that designation and certification, and really just is the expert on breaking into any kind of luxury or high-end home sales. We talked with him last time about how now is the time with all this uncertainty. It's still a great time, if not the best time, to get into and break into higher end markets and start raising your average sale price, making more money for each commission that you do. And we talked about the concept of it being like high end and luxury properties being a slack adjuster, where it can drop a lot of commission into your pocket at one time and help you get through lean times, just like the one we're experiencing right now. So we've got a lot that we covered on that episode. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about objections, and we're going to teach you how to handle 3 specific objections that you get in the high-end and luxury markets and how to handle them in a way that makes sense and speaks directly to those kind of affluent homeowners. So, Mike LaFido, what's up today?
Hey, not too much. And, one thing that you mentioned was the slack adjuster as far as why now is a good time to break into high-end and luxury. But the other aspect is we had on a previous podcast that your company helped edit and produce was Kevin Foreman. And Kevin talked about how in his professional opinion, the average listing commission, according to Real Trends, was 5.08% last year. In his professional opinion, it's going to go from 5.08 to 3.64 in the next 7 years because of disruptors and the iBuyers and everything else, less friction in the transaction. I think most people listening today can agree that commissions probably aren't going to go up. I hope they don't go down, like he says, is to that drastic 3.64, but I think we can all agree they're not going up. So one of the ways that agents can sustain their quality of production and their income and the commissions they bring in, if not increase it, is by increasing their average sale price, right? And so that topic was the same, and my suggestion was the same pre-corona and post-corona, is in times of uncertainty, when commissions are probably going to go down, if you bring more value and you can increase your average sale price, you can work smarter, not harder, Matt. You can sell less homes actually and make more money, or sell the same amount of homes and make more money. Either way, it's working smarter, not harder.
Yeah, exactly. Which I love. That's that's one of the things that first, when we first started working together and producing your podcast, that was one of the things I loved about your point of view. Because I totally agree. I mean, I teach it even just on the marketing agency side. Like, that's exactly what I tell people to do. Like the affluent portion of any market it really can be a safe harbor, right? In the business world, the affluent savvy market, those are often the early adopters. They're the most successful. They often have like more of the strength of execution. Like, they've been through the market crashes before. They know what to do. And so if you're going to serve anybody, like, why not serve the more affluent end of the market anyway? Because they're the ones that are the most likely to ride out times of uncertainty and not completely pull back, because they have probably been through it before. They know a little bit about what to expect, and they have a plan for it going in. And I know a lot of people in my world are like that. So I know what you're talking about. Now let's get into a few objections. We just want to limit ourselves to 3 in this particular episode.
Sure.
So let's start with whatever one you want to jump out with, and then we'll talk about the objection and then how to handle it.
Yeah. So the first objection, and by the way, I think I shared this with you. Always looking for creative ways to bring value to agents. And so I'm not a card player, but as I mentioned to you before, these are objections straight from our playing card deck. We have an objection handling playing card that we created, Matt, and 52 cards in a deck and 16 face cards, if you will, kings, queens, jacks, etc. So these are some of the objections straight from our objection handling playing cards that now
is that something you just like? Do you just give those out as speaking engagements, or can they buy them off the website, or where do they get them?
They can buy them off the website. So we have some luxury gear, if you will. LuxurySpecialistGear.com is the website. Luxury Specialist Gear, where they can buy. I'm wearing a hoodie right now, and one of my swag items. And the objection handling playing cards are going to be in that store. They're not there yet, but hopefully by the time this hits, they will be. But they can check back periodically at LuxurySpecialistGear.com, and we're going to sell them just for $20 I think $27 is what we're going to
Yeah,
sell them
they
for.
look slick. They're very
Yeah.
well worth it. Yeah, and it's a great, like, just to be able to flip through and refresh yourself on the objection
Yeah, if
handlers
you're
is pretty
bored,
awesome.
you
Yeah,
know, especially during these stay-at-home, what do they call it? Stay in place,
shelter in place or whatever.
shelter in
Yeah.
place. Yeah, there you
Oh
go.
man. Okay, so let's jump in. What's the number one objection?
So the first objection, and they're not necessarily in order, but this is a true objection that you're going to get, especially agents breaking into luxury. Again, what keeps agents awake at night, part of the reason agents don't want to go on some of these high-end and luxury properties, Matt, on these appointments for these high-end and luxury properties, Matt, is because the what ifs, the
Right.
what if they ask me this, Matt? What if they ask me that? What if?
Yep.
So the number one objection that you're going to probably get, and you need to be ready for it. I know I got it. So I have a $9.5 million listing currently, Matt. It's Architectural Digest most beautiful home for sale. It was the backdrop for the TV show Empire, and I've had it for almost 5 years now. We're going on 4.5 years. It's been my listing.
Goodness.
We just had a showing last week. We've had more activity in the last 2 months than we've had in the last year. But where I'm going with you on this is when I went on the listing appointment at the time, he was listed at $12.9 million. He asked me this: how many homes have you sold in my price point? So that's the objection, the question that many agents are going to get. How many homes have you sold in my price point?
Mm-hmm.
You might also get, how many homes have you sold in my area?
Mm-hmm.
He asked me basically both. And so how many have you sold in my price point and how many sold in my area? So in this particular, my philosophy with luxury, Matt, and so I've covered a couple objections right now. So let's go with the first one is how many have you sold in my price point? So talking about your unique value proposition, you as an agent need to have a story, why you got into business, what makes you different and unique versus the competition.
Mm-hmm.
Many of you maybe haven't sold in that price point, but maybe you can leverage other successful sales from your team members or somebody at your Remax or Sotheby's or fill in the blank boutique. Everybody defines team differently, right? Some people define team as, no, I'm just officially on their team and I'm in the team picture. Others leverage the brand as the team. And that brand could be not just in your immediate area, but even outside the state. Maybe you're a Remax agent in Colorado, and there was a record sale in California from another Remax agent. Is that part of your team? I don't know. They're part of your brand. So everybody defines team differently. So if you personally don't have any track record of selling high-end or unique properties, then leverage others that do. Get their permission, of course. Talk to them. That's one of the things I tell agents all the time, Matt. If you were on my team and I had a successful sale, I would say, go ahead and leverage it. Don't say it was your sale, but hey, the Michael LaFido or the marketing luxury team, we just had another, successful sale. Leverage other team members or agents in your office, successes. Get their permission, of course, and tag them if you're doing that on social media. So that's one thing that you can do is leverage other people's if you don't have those sales. Now, if you've had some difficult listings, maybe they weren't luxury, but they were difficult. I remember some 5+ years ago, I sold a converted church. It looked like a church with a steeple, but it was a house. It was a 2-bedroom house, and we were asking a premium. It had no garage. It was very difficult. We sold that. We've had other success stories. So maybe you've sold for sale by owners or canceled and expired listings that other agents previously failed at selling and you were successful at selling. Leverage those stories, leverage them. And that's a way that you can do that. And so you can hear my passion come through, and I would use that. So, tell your story. I've run 11 marathons. I would tell a seller, listen, what does that have to do with selling your home? Well, if you want someone that's got amazing work ethic, that overcomes physical and mental barriers during difficult times, and we are in a difficult time, seller, I'm your guy. If you want to go with traditional Tammy or traditional Tim that does the same things as everybody else, I'm not your guy.
Yep. Yeah, and that's interesting. That's a hard one too, because in Chicago there can't be that many $10+ million listings. It's not La Jolla, where you trip over, you throw a rock in any direction, you're going to send a rock through somebody's $10 million house.
Well, so you bring up another good point. So knowing the numbers is really important. So last year in 2019, the highest sale in our market for single family was 6.2 million. So
Wow.
bringing that back to them, say, hey, listen, I haven't sold anything above, 6.2 last year or ever, but just so you know, the highest sale was blank. So knowing the
Mhm.
numbers is important.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Needed a hard dose of reality there that he was asking double what had sold. Okay. So the first one is, have you ever sold a home in my price range? We dealt with that. And then I like how you slipped in that you can label their property as a difficult property. And that opens up a whole range of possibilities to share other difficult properties you sold. So there's two different ways of handling that same kind of objection.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. All right. Give me
The
another one.
second objection is not that much different. It's how many homes have you sold in my town or my area or my subdivision, right? Because for some of your listeners, they're going to have to go outside of their town to break into high-end and luxury. And my philosophy, Matt, is have car will travel. In other words, yes, the neighborhood expert, if you're the neighborhood expert and you farm a certain area, you're a rock star in that area, great, leverage it. But if that area isn't high-end and luxury, you're going to have to step out of those areas, out of your comfort zone. Remember, when you grow your knowledge, your confidence will grow. So grow your knowledge on the luxury market, invest tools and resources, listen to our podcast, do some of those things, and you'll be more confident to do some prospecting, some lead generation in that 90210 zip code for your given market. Yep. And so when you do that marketing and you get that listing appointment, or you get that seller to call you and they'll hit you with that question, you have to be prepared. Very similar to that, how many homes have you sold in this price point? Okay. And so having a good online marketing presence, having some amazing testimonials and case studies or videos is going to be important. And, one of the things that we do some amazing videos, lifestyle videos. We do some amazing events at the property. So talking about creative, being outside the box, taking those same systems that you've used in your cookie cutter homes and applying the high-end and luxury is going to be important. You might have some lost leaders. You might have to invest in your business knowing you might not get a great ROI on it immediately, but long-term you will. Case in point, almost 6 years ago, I did my first lifestyle video where I brought in 2 film crews. I brought in a car transport with some exotic cars. I hired a horse at $900. I brought in actors. It was a $10,000 video on a $4.5 million property. I knew that I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realist. So I realistically, statistically speaking, I had a difficult time selling that home. It never sold. It still hasn't to this day. And I knew that, but I was willing to invest thousands of dollars in videos and all this stuff because I knew I was going to be able to leverage it in future opportunities. Right. So when I went on the appointment on this $12.9 million home, and he said, how many homes have you sold in this area? I said, I haven't sold any, but your 2 previous agents were neighborhood experts. And what has that gotten? And I was direct with them. I wasn't rude, but I was direct with them. Yeah. And, but then I shared with them, we're in a show and tell industry, Matt. So then I shared with them how I did this video down the street on this $4.5 million home. And here's another one and another one. And I flat out told them, if you want to hire traditional, I'm not the guy. If you want to hire local, I'm not the guy. But this is where knowing your numbers is really important. So this next point I'm about to make on how many homes have you sold in my area is going to be really important. So if you were the seller, Matt, I'd say, Matt, statistically speaking, not just locally here in the Chicagoland market, but across the country, the agent you hire brings the buyer directly to the table with no other agent, no other broker involved. Statistically, 10 to 15% of the time that only happens. So said differently, Matt, 85 to 90% of the time the agent you hire is going to be cooperating with another broker from another firm or maybe from their same firm. But in other words, there's going to be 2 agents involved. Yeah. So knowing that that happens 85 to 90% of the time, so only 10% to 15% of the time, the agent's going to bring the buyer directly. So knowing that the vast majority of the time, the agent that has an amazing online marketing plan, that's got great relationships, that has international connections, that is likable, trustworthy, that's creative, that's outside the box, that is willing to do things that other agents aren't willing to do, that has local connections as well as connections outside of your town. you see, maybe your last agents were well ingrained locally, but pretty much everybody in your town knows that your home's on the market. It's been on for a couple of years with 2 brokers. You want to get outside exposure now. I'm the guy for that.
Yeah, that's a great way to combat that. Like, how many homes have you sold in my area? If you've got the other backup, you can say none. And here's why. You know, because I'm doing this, like, I specialize in these types of homes, and I sell them all over the place. And oh, by the way, in your case, Mike, like, agents fly me out to go help them sell their luxury properties all around the country. So you've got, like, you have a very unique positioning. And so you in particular can completely blow away that objection. But like you said, you can leverage your team. Somebody could leverage you in the sense that they could say, look, like, this is my plan. We're going to bring in the luxury listing specialist. Like, I want to bring in a consultant to help us get the positioning of your house exactly right, because obviously these local people aren't doing you any good. So let's bring in somebody with international connections, and let's get the marketing and the positioning of the home right, so that we have an appeal way beyond your, you know, it's like if you can respond to the objection like that, you blow the lid off of their whole reason for thinking that's even important, and you supersede it with something much bigger, which is, hey, your house needs international appeal, not just local appeal.
Well, again, it comes down to knowing your numbers at the local market. So in this particular town, Barrington Hills, Illinois, Matt, there's 7 years of inventory for homes that are listed above $2 million.
7 years?
7 years.
Wow. Okay.
So anything above 7 months is called a buyer's market. So let's just say there's a year of inventory.
Yeah.
Like for that given market, you know, in that top 10%, there's usually, it's a buyer's market in most markets. So let's just say it's a buyer's market. You know that in that price point, you'd say, to overcome the objection, you'd simply say, well, Matt, you can go with the local agents, but there's over a year of inventory. Agents are doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Why would you go with an agent that they specialize here, but guess what? The results, not just theirs, but the market here is soft.
Yeah, exactly. And go with what you've always done, and expect the same result.
It's because the flip side of it, it's a different objection. It's difficult to overcome the objection if in that marketplace it's a seller's market and those local agents are bringing multiple offers, selling above asking price. I would still welcome that opportunity, but that's a much difficult objection to overcome. Yeah. But in most cases, that's not the case, Matt.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Love it. All right. So that we gave them some perspective shifts on that. So we talked about sold homes in my price range. Have you sold homes in my market or my neighborhood? What's the third one?
Yeah. The third one is going to be, the other agents told me my house is worth blank. I'll list with you if you can sell it at that price.
Right.
So eventually, after you build rapport, and if there's no cookie cutter comparables, and a lot of times in these unique and high end properties, Matt, there isn't, unless it's in a subdivision that there was comparable that's sold. So if there are no true comparables out there, but there is a lot of data that suggests that your price is more realistic than their price. When I say their price, the other agents, or the price that the seller wants to go on. Because when I speak on these national stages, a lot of times they'll have me do what's called my fresh eyes analysis. They'll have like who's who in luxury real estate. They've had me do this multiple times at their annual conferences. Where when I'm doing a breakout session, they'll have agents that are attending the conference submit their stale luxury listing. In other words, you got a high-end or luxury listing that's not getting showings, not getting feedback. Maybe the seller's on you about doing something different, unique. Submit it. I'll take a look at it. All that we ask is you submit the photos and maybe the MLS link, and if you've done a video. And so what I can tell you is the first question I usually ask if somebody's on the hot seat in my live training, Matt, if you were that agent, I'd say, hey, Matt, first off, I see you're listed at $3.25 million. Matt, is that your suggested price or is that theirs?
Right.
So I hate to be the guy to blame it on price, but I do ask that, like, is it your suggested price as the expert, Matt, or is it theirs? So I'll tell the seller, listen, I don't have any comps to support your price and support their price, but maybe you have, or maybe they provided me some off-market property. Can you provide that with me? Because I don't have any data that supports your price.
Right.
But maybe they know of something that I don't have access to.
Mm-hmm.
You know they don't.
Yeah, of
Right?
course.
But I don't have this. I don't have the comps to support their price. But what did they provide you? I'd be happy to look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, most likely the case is the price came from the seller, and you know it, and
Right.
the other agent knows it, right? Which is how they ended up with that price. That's how they got the listing, because they told the seller most likely what they wanted to hear, and we both know that's most likely what happened.
Yeah, they told them what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes down to that objection, so you mentioned, well, I don't have, like, this is my recommended price. So you ask them the question, then you say, well, I don't have, like, the data that I'm seeing isn't supporting that kind of recommendation. And of course, if you're dealing with something that's been on the market with another agent, you can reinforce the fact that, I mean, it seems like the buying market is agreeing with that. Like, they're just not biting. So unfortunately, it's not me or you that decides what the final sale price is going to be anyway. It's the buyers, and they're not buying. So what else is there that supports that we should be asking for that? Because if the buyers aren't biting and I'm not seeing the comps, then, you know, what else is out there? So you're saying basically just lead them through a couple of key questions that gets it to dawn on them that they have arrived at that price through a series of kind of bad, like, poor decisions, poor thinking.
Well, that's the other thing. You're absolutely right. And then the other thing I would strongly recommend, if it's difficult to come up with pricing, because we know sellers, you know, a lot of times want to price it based on what they want to get out of it or what they have into it.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the market doesn't give a rat's patootie about that. So what I like to say is, I a lot of times will encourage a seller to get a pre-appraisal done.
Okay.
So that's an investment, the key word there. That's an investment that you would make, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, just like if you were selling some rare artwork and there were no comparables for that art. And, you know, you would carry a lot more credibility if your asking price was backed up with an appraisal. Maybe the appraisal doesn't come in favorable. It's not in a national database that could be used against us, but at least we have an idea of what buyers and buyers agents are going to look at as comparables, and we can do some further due diligence and maybe find out one was a divorce, one was a relo. And so at least we're prepared if the appraisal does not come in favorable. But if it does come in favorable, we're going to leverage the heck out of it. We're going to post it in an MLS, priced below appraisal or priced at the appraisal that was done in March of 2020.
Yeah, I like that. I like that perspective of, think of it like, if you can't find any comps, like, think about your home as a work of art. And you wouldn't take a work of art to auction without having an expert look at it first and give you an appraisal, because how do you even know where to start the bidding?
Well, that's a great point. But then to play difficult role playing, Matt, is if you're the seller, you might say, well, Mike, you're the expert. Why can't you provide a CMA and we use that? Well, because today's buyers in a buyer's market, they're skeptical by nature. And so we have to alleviate that skepticism, and having a listing agent who's got your best interest in mind say it's worth X is one thing, but having a third party neutral licensed person who they eat and they sleep and they could lose their license if they put false information in there is another thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The buyers know that the agent that represents the house, that their job is to get the most out of that house as they possibly can. So why should they trust what I say? Yeah, that's a great point. I love it. All right. So let's finish up. What's the best way for people to reach out and just kind of get into your world and learn more about breaking into high-end and luxury?
Yeah, so we have some amazing free content out there. And for those agents that are committed to increasing their average sale price and committed to breaking into luxury, or those agents that are in luxury already, Matt, you know, our podcast, our course isn't just entry level. Right. It's also for that top luxury agent, that top team member. I mean, we've had some amazing agents and brokers that are multi-million-dollar producers that have taken our designation course. So on the free side, they can go to our podcast, which you help us with, and they can find it on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify. It's Luxury Listing Specialist. We've released, I think, 84 episodes at the time that we're recording this. One a week we release. They can also just go to luxurylistingpodcast.com and they can listen to them and download them there. The other, we have, so that's one information. They can find out more about our actual designation, Matt. They can go to luxurylistingspecialist.com. There's an FAQ section on what it is, what it isn't, what they get. It's pretty cool. We offer an upgraded version where there's over 275 templates that they can download and have access to for a year. So if they're committed to increasing their average sale price when the economy turns back to normal, don't, we're all going to be busy then. This is the time that you should be digesting and looking for the competitive edge when things are slower, so that when the market turns back on, boom, you hit the ground running. Versus, we know how agents are. They got ADD. It's like squirrel, shiny object syndrome. When the market picks up again, and you're going to show, and work with buyers and sellers, you're going to be too busy for this kind of stuff. So this is the time to invest in yourself and your education. And I got free stuff out there for agents, and they can find me on Facebook as well. We have a free group. Go to facebook.com/luxury listing specialist, or go to luxurylistingspecialist.com if they're committed to increasing their average sale price and they want to invest in our certification.
That's right. Love it. And you're 100% right. That's exactly how I'm looking at this time. We recorded this in, late March of 2020. Everything's on lockdown. Most of the country is in various stages of it. And yeah, like if you're going to be at home, whether real estate's considered essential in your area or not, obviously business is slower. And it's cut back on how much you can really be out showing people and meeting with new people. Yeah, this is the ultimate time to get an edge so that when things pick up again, you massively leap forward instead of start to catch up. So I love that. I hope people take that to heart. Mike, thanks as always. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Matt.